When my guest tonight was 12 years old, he created a personal vision statement. His goals included a college football scholarship and one day playing in the Super Bowl. Michael Singletary not only made that dream a reality, but he became one of the most dominant linebackers in NFL history, earning 10 Pro Bowl appearances, 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, and a Super Bowl championship with the Bears in 1985. But before he was named first-team All-Pro for the 7th time, did you know he was forbidden from playing any sports until the 7th grade? Would listen to classical music before games just to calm himself down. Cracked 16 of his own helmets in college. Tonight, we'll learn what makes this undeniable icon who he is. A man who once said, "Nobody intimidates me." Please welcome Hall of Fame linebacker, Mike Singletary. Hello, sir.
Hi.
I got to admit, you walked out from behind the wall there, and I thought you were sizing me up like you were going to take me right out. You have that intense look about you. But when you get to know you, there's that soft side. I'm curious to know what life was like for you, born in the Houston, Texas area, and what the household was like as the youngest of 10.
Being the last one, my mom was a little up in age, and the doctors really told my mom and dad that she should abort me. I was going to be sickly and may have some other issues that it would just be better to do away with that. But for my mom and my dad, that was out of the question. We're going to have this child, and we're going to trust God to do what we know that He can do to bring our son up and make him healthy. And so that was the scenario. And my dad was a Pentecostal pastor, and my mom worked a little bit here and there doing odd jobs. My dad was, he was the go-to guy in our neighborhood. He was the guy that everybody came to when there was an issue. If someone needed help, they came to my dad. If someone needed something done to their home, they came to my dad. If someone was sick, they came to my dad to pray for whoever it was. So my dad was everything to the neighborhood. But at the same time, he was not that to our home. And his own family suffered. The problem is that my dad didn't, he was always giving out money. He got in trouble with taxes at times. So, and he gave a lot of money to the church. So it was one of those things, once again, that he gave to everybody else, but we struggled.
I would imagine, that this was not a table filled with food when you were a kid.
Well, here's the interesting. There would be times that were more difficult than others. But my dad was the provider. My dad, the one thing that I learned from my father was you have to work. So my dad was in the construction business and very good at what he did. And all of us boys worked together in this construction business. And we did driveways and foundations and sidewalks and things like that. And sometimes, he didn't have work. And we would have to go out and find some. We'd pick up cans. We'd go to the junkyard and figure out there would be things lying around. We'd get all the copper and whatever we could find and go and take it to the metal place. And whatever we had to do, we did that. He always taught us you have to be willing to do the work. If there's a will, there's a way. I believe that, and it's one of the greatest attributes that I have.
I know there was a strict household. I know he ruled that household when he was there to the point where you guys really weren't allowed to wear shorts, weren't allowed to play sports.
All of my sisters and brothers flunked gym because you couldn't participate, because any type of athletics or anything like that was seen as something that you could become prideful, or something that took away from your devotion to God. There was so many different rules. You couldn't dance. You couldn't. There was a lot of things that you couldn't do. So
this was like the movie Footloose before Footloose.
Yeah, I guess so.
You couldn't dance in the town.
Yeah,
You couldn't.
yeah.
I mean, but that's a lot for a kid. I talked to your sister, though, Linda. Your brother Grady, at some point here, steps in, and from what I gather, really becomes a mentor, a father figure to you. He was the one that filled that void early for you.
Grady was the next brother to me in the family line. And I was very close to Grady. When my mom and dad divorced, Grady moved back home. And he was trying to help mom with me. And my mom worked 22, 23 hours a day at this hotel. My job was to basically go to school, learn everything I could, and just stay out of trouble. That was my job, and that was very frustrating for me because I wanted to do something more than that. I wanted to contribute. I wanted to get a job. And Mom said, I'm not going to have that.
And while this is all going on, you're kind of sneaking your way over to the TV to watch football.
Well, there were a couple of kids in the neighborhood. We would go on the back street and play football. I was not supposed to play. But I would just go and hang out with the guys and play the game. We would play tackle on the grass, touch on the street. That was.
I bet you enjoy the game on the grass more. just knowing how this story ends.
Yeah,
I would imagine you like the tackle part a little better.
It was fun. I mean, I loved the game. It was a great escape. Gave me a great opportunity to get away and just let whatever I had in me out.
Vent.
Yes. So it was a lot of fun.
When you want to go play football, and Grady is kind of he's your agent, in essence, talking to your dad.
My mom and dad at this time were divorced, but I still had to respect my dad. And my dad said, son, we got to work. I don't think we have time for foolishness. Football, I don't even understand the game. Just a bunch of guys running around. That doesn't make sense to me. We need to work. So I said, but Dad, I really want to play.
You were how old at this point?
I was 12.
12 years old.
Yes. So I just said, I got to play. You got to let me play.
What's the drive to where you went to your dad, this man who ruled the family with an iron fist, and even though they were divorced, you still had to get his blessing to play.
Yes.
Why was football so important for you to go do that?
I felt football was a part of my destiny. I felt that I could not exist without playing the game. I felt that football was my completion. It was the thing that equalized me. It was the thing that settled me down. It allowed me to think clearly. It allowed me to begin to really focus on something other than what was around me, my neighborhood, the drugs and alcohol in my neighborhood, the stuff that was happening in my house, outside of my house. Nothing was great. But football, there was something great about this game, something that allowed me to want to be something, want to be a part of something bigger than myself.
So your dad says to you?
He says, I tell you what, I'm going to send your brother Grady to the game, and if you play well, you can play. If you don't, you're going to be on that truck, and we're going to go to work. So the game starts, and I'm on the bench. The middle linebacker is playing horribly, and finally he gets hurt. So Coach Brown looks over at me, or Coach People looks over at me and says, hey, Singletary, go in the game, play middle linebacker. The first play, they run a trap play, and the trap play, everything's moving fast in front of you, and this huge fullback is running right at me, and I freeze. He's running at me, and I would love to tell you that I stood up and I hit him and I dropped him and I got up, and that was the first play I ever played. It was like, yeah, but it wasn't like that. He came through the line, and I'm there, and I froze, and I went down. And he jumped over my head, and he ran, and I was like, what am I doing? And I got up, and I ran after him, and the next play, it was awful. It I played like 3 plays, and they were awful. They were bad. I came to the sideline, and I just started thinking. I'm looking at Grady, and he just kind of looking away. After the game, I'm walking home with Grady. I don't know what to say. I don't know what's going to happen.
You scared?
Yeah, I'm scared that he's going to tell Dad he didn't play well. But Grady looked at me and he said, Mike, you did okay. So he told my dad that I did pretty good. And from that day, you know, they let me play, and I just started playing, and I really loved the game. I knew at that time that I could not exist without football. I just couldn't. I remember the last time I saw Grady, he was getting ready to leave, and he was going out of town. And he called me over, and he said, hey, Mike, whatever you do, make sure you take care of Mom. And he reached in his pocket, and he gave me a $5 bill. And he said, I love you. That's the last time I saw him. The next time I saw him was in the hospital with tubes all in him. And then he's gone.
Killed in a drunk driving accident, 6-car accident. The only person that lives is the drunk driver.
So at this time, I'm thinking my mom was the sweetest woman in the world. And I'm looking at my dad walk away from her and get remarried in a short amount of time and move to the other side of town and buy his new wife a new house that my mom had begged for all of her life. And so I'm looking at that. So it doesn't pay to be good. Then I look at Grady, someone who comes back home, tries to do the right thing, tries to help my mom, tries to help with me. And so now he's gone. So I made a decision that I think many people make. I made a decision to be mediocre. I said, I'm not going to be the best, because when you try to be the best, I'm learning very quickly, when you try to be the best at something, people don't like it. And they start saying things like, who do you think you are? So I said, if I'm mediocre, then people like that. That's what I'm going to be. So my mom walked in the kitchen that morning, and she knew that I had made that decision. She knew that my body language gave it away. And she said, son, I want you to sit down for a minute. I need to talk to you about this thing called life. She said, I know you're hurting, but I want you to know that as I look at you, there's something special about you. There is greatness in you. But if you quit now, you'll never see it. You will never, ever see it. She said, I want you to remember that life is not about how high you climb. Life is about how many times you are willing to get up after stuff knocks you down. And you got to get up, son, and you got to start swinging. And you just got to keep swinging and swinging and swinging until maybe you're the only one left. That's what life is about. Now, she said, I need you to make up your mind, because I need you to be the man around the house. When I looked in her eyes, I knew that she believed in me. And because she believed in me, I said, Mom, I can do that. And all of a sudden, this vision came about of all the things that I thought about, but I never had a reason. I never had the strength or the courage to pull them out and write them out. They were just there. So I got up from the table, I looked at my mom, and I said, Mom, I can do that. I will be the man of the house. And I got up and I walked in my room, and I got out a sheet of paper, and I began to write, and I wrote out my vision statement. And my vision statement said the first thing was to get a scholarship. Somehow, some way, get a scholarship to go to college. Next, get my degree, in which I would become the first in my family to do so. Become an All-American. Get drafted and go to the NFL, buy my mom a house, and take care of her for the rest of her life. Become an All-Pro, go to the Super Bowl, and own my own business.
And so it begins for you. And in high school, Coach Brown?
Yes.
He is the first guy, other than your brother, to really fill that father role for you.
So I was going over in the 9th grade that spring to kind of look at the football team and kind of see who was there. And he said, I tell you what, you come out there, I'm going to give you a chance. But you do one thing wrong and you are gone. But after he saw that I was willing to work and I was very determined, he took me under his wing and he would talk to me about how I should study and how I should talk and how I should walk, how I should shake hands and how I should look a man in his eyes, how I should not stutter, all of those things.
And football.
And football.
How to tackle, how to square someone up, form tackling, whatever it was. There was something, I mean, you're learning about life, but you're also learning how good you can be on the football field as these years go by.
To become a great tackler, I was taught very early on, keep your face up, you got to bow your neck, keep your eyes open so you know exactly what you're hitting, and you have to accelerate with the lower part of your body and bring your arms through and bring your feet through. And so when I went home, that's what I did. I would hit everything in the house. I would get pillows. I would, just boom, hit stuff. And my mom would be walking around. I'd hit her. Boom.
Come on.
What are you doing? I mean, not hard, but just constantly face up, form tackling because I wanted to get it right.
Your senior year, you're rated as the 3rd best linebacker in the state of Texas. One thing you always fought was your height. People doubted Mike Singletary because you weren't tall enough. But you're trying to prove yourself every time you're out there on the field, and now programs are looking at you. You end up at Baylor. There was another Coach Brown waiting for you, and his name was Coach Taff. This was another extraordinary man that came into your life.
First of all, Baylor was the only school, the only Division I school that offered me a scholarship to play middle linebacker. Coach Taff was really looking at a running back, and he just happened to see that every time he saw the running back, he saw me. He said, I want to talk to this kid.
Yeah, I bet.
So when I went to visit, there was nothing great about me. The only thing I ever had that was of value was my desire.
And when you get there, you're 13th on the linebacker depth chart, Mike Singletary.
It's a long way down. It's interesting. Every person that I talk to, and I say, how do I become great? You have to do this. You have to do that. You have to do this. You have to do that. And it would just go down the list. You think you can do that? Yes. And I would do it every day. So if you told me something, that this is the recipe for greatness, that's what I'm going to do.
You get in your first game, and the stats are 28 unassisted tackles from Mike. I mean, that's mind-blowing. A great game at the NFL level for any player, safety, linebacker, whatever. I mean, you're talking a great game, 10, 11 tackles with help.
The only thing I knew how to do is when I had a chance, just to give everything I had.
When you came to the sideline at some point during 28 tackles, were they going, whoa, where have you been this entire time?
It was just one of those situations where when I left home, I remember my mom telling me, go there, study your tail off, and when you're practicing, give everything you have. So I knew that the only way that I could go through life and not have any regrets is that every day, every opportunity that I had is to put everything into it.
So much so that you become this ferocious hitter who, legend has it, cracked 16 of your own helmets. while you're at Baylor? That's I assume that's face mask and the rubber thing that holds the face mask onto the helmet.
No, it's the helmet.
It's the helmet itself?
Oh, my God.
Cracked 16.
I don't know if it was 16, but it was a lot.
It sounds good, though. Let's just go with 16.
It was a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But they're form tackles. This isn't a guy that's spearing people, leading with his head. Every time I saw you make a tackle, it was face up. You were seeing what you were hitting.
Yes.
I want to get a sense of what life is like away from the facility, away from football. You were with your wife, Kim, in college. You met her at Baylor. Why did it take you guys so long to get married?
Well, now, at this time, it's 1978 is when I met Kim. Kim is white, I'm black. We're at Baylor, we're in Texas. It was not a very popular thing at that time for interracial relationships. And so being at Baylor, you know, there was a lot of talk and, you know, she couldn't be in a sorority, you know, that kind of thing because she was dating me. It was interesting. It was one of the most difficult decisions of my life because for the first time, there are a lot of people that are very close to me that are giving me advice that I don't believe is the right advice.
With regard to Kim?
Yes. You know, you may love her, but this is a bad decision. This is something that's not right. You know, this isn't gonna make it. So as I begin to look at life and I begin to look at our relationship and where I wanted us to go and the amount of pressure that was coming with that, I needed to make sure that everything was right. I needed to make sure that everything was in order because it wasn't just our relationship, it was the outside forces that we had to deal with as well.
Nobody believed in Mike Singletary like Mike Singletary. Once you get your legs underneath you, you have a great career at Baylor. Then the draft rolls around. You wanted to be a Chicago Bear? Is that accurate? And if so, is that because of the butt-kiss middle linebacker tradition that was with the Chicago Bears? What was the fascination with Chicago?
I really began to study the linebacker tradition. And, you know, there were two guys that I really loved when I saw them play. Willie Lanier, who played for the Chiefs.
Sure.
And Dick Butkus, who played for the Bears. When I saw the Bears play, I saw snow. I saw them breathing and this stuff coming out of their mouths. It looked really cool, man. I said, wow, this is what I want to do. And so as the draft rolled on, the first round was over. I'm devastated. I'm totally devastated. I go outside, I'm crying, I'm kicking tires, I'm kicking dirt, and I say, Lord, I don't even want to play. You know, that can't be right. That can't be fair. There's no way those other guys are better than me.
At any position.
So finally I say, if you really want me to play, let me go in the second round to the Bears. 5 seconds later, my wife, who was my girlfriend then, came running outside, said, Mike, the Bears just drafted you. I went, whoa, that was fast.
the man's working fast.
5 seconds. It was like 5 seconds, you know, and I was like, wow. So I said, oh, Chicago, okay. So it was very exciting, yes.
You show up, you're now playing for Buddy Ryan. Forget the Bears, you're playing for Buddy Ryan, and you show up, and on the first day, he says to you what?
Say, hey, little short, fat guy. Like, are you kidding me? He said, why did we draft you? It was an interesting welcoming, to say the least. He was just a guy that was hard on rookies. You had to do something to earn his respect.
Yeah, I'm wondering, you know, you're checking off all these boxes on your list that you made as a kid in junior high. What's going through your mind? What's your mindset as you show up? Now you're in the NFL and you're a Chicago Bear.
For me, it was all about, what do I do now? Now that I've accomplished the goals up to this point, what do I do now? How do I get there?
How long was the proving time for Buddy Ryan?
It was the first 8 weeks of regular season. Actually, it was 9. I think my first game, and I had begged him all year, I'm working hard and I'm doing everything that I know how to do. It was very frustrating for me. Finally, 8th game of the year, I called my mom and I called my sister. I said, you guys got to come. You guys got to come. I'm getting a chance to start. I'm going to play. It's going to be great. And you got to be here. Well, Buddy sits me down before the game. And he says, okay, you're going to start. Here's what I want you to understand. If you do one thing wrong, one thing, son, if I say something, if I call, you better do it exactly the way I say it. One thing, you're done. You understand? You're going to be right back over there with me. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got it.
Because they need to know this is a revolutionary defense. This is a defense called the 4-6, the 46 defense. And people in the league offenses, they didn't know where anything was coming from. Guys are moving all over the place. And here you are as a kid, as a rookie, you're the middle linebacker, and you have to be the coach on the field. And he's entrusting this complicated 4-6 defense to you.
First play of the game, Chuck Muncie gets the ball. I hit him. It's a great play. Everybody, our defense is jacked up. We're ready to go. And the next play is getting ready to start, and Buddy sends a play in. I'm looking at the sidelines. He calls the play. It's 2Z. So I get in the huddle, and I call 2Z, 4-3-2Z. Gary Fensick, who's a Yale graduate, says, no, Mike, it's 3Z. I said, no, it's 2Z. He said, no, Mike, I know it's 3Z. I said, I'm telling you, it's 2Z, and that's what we're doing. Gary says, no, it's not. It's 3Z. I call timeout. Buddy is cursing me left and right. All he's concerned about is I call the timeout because I'm a rookie. So when I get to the sideline, he goes, what are you doing? Are you an idiot? Why did you call timeout? I said, because Gary Fensick was going to call 3Z. He said, go sit on the bench. I didn't play another down that day, and we won the game. So needless to say, I was done. I thought, you know what? I know I'm right. I did exactly what he told me to do, and I sat the game. I sat out the whole game. You know, my sister, my mom, it was a long, long day.
And I'm sure embarrassing.
Oh, very embarrassing. So I didn't say anything to him. I didn't say anything to him all week. We play Kansas City the next week. And he says, all right, you know what? I'm going to give you another chance. They got Joe Delaney. Joe
the
Delaney
late,
was,
great
yes,
Joe Delaney.
Yes.
I mean, he was owning the league.
Yes, he was. And he was tearing it up. And Buddy said, you better do something this week to contain this guy. You understand that? Yes, sir. Thankfully, I get in the game, and they keep running the same play. They have a favorite play that they're running, and they get a couple of yards on it the first time, but I couldn't believe they were going to do it again. The first time I hit him, he went out, and he came back in, and they ran the play again. And he went out and didn't come back in. So after the game, Buddy tapped me on the leg as I passed him on the bus, and he said, 50, you showed me something. Okay, thank you. But I sat down, and I was on cloud 9. Wow, this is great. So it was the start of something. Buddy sat me down that next day, and he said, look, I believe you got something. And but I want you to make sure you understand this. this is my defense, and you're going to do it the way I want you to do it, every time. You understand that? And he had this projector that we took on the road that showed our film on, and he said, you take that projector with you, and I want you to have that projector everywhere you go. He just said, you have to make sure that every day you earn the right to be the middle linebacker on this team.
Could you even describe to somebody like me or somebody watching how difficult it was to get your arms around this complicated system?
For me, it was being able to direct traffic, just being able to make sure that on a particular play, Buddy wouldn't call the play, I would have to call the play. All he would say is whatever they come out in, adjust it to that formation. So it would just be automatic front and coverage, and I needed to know what front and what coverage goes with this defense. He always said, when I call something, and we talk about it in here, that's what I want you to do. And if it's not right, you make it right.
This 4-6 defense, this 46, ain't working if the middle linebacker doesn't get it or if he doesn't have a star in there.
Right.
And now he's got that in you.
To be able to have someone give you something and you really take ownership of it and then be accountable to do that when you go out on the field, you got to execute it mentally. That was very rewarding for me. I'm very fortunate. Coach Brown in high school was like my dad. Coach Taft, I call him Dad. Buddy Ryan, I call him Dad. Love those men. Love those men like my own dad.
You're making your name as this wide-eyed middle linebacker. Do you ever sense fear in their eyes?
I had one guy, I was playing this game, and he got mad at me after the game was over, and I didn't really think he was being serious until I saw his reaction, but he said, "What are you taking?" I said, "I'm not taking anything." He said, No, you're taking something. What are you taking, man? You're so wired up and so intense. What are you taking? I said, "I'm not taking anything." He said, "Okay, so you're not going to tell me what you're taking." I said, "I'm not taking anything." I mean, really, I have never, anybody that knows me will tell you I will not touch anything that is not pure, that is not healthy, that is not, it's just not happening.
I know you from sitting out here, that's true.
So I trained my eyes. As a kid, I just used to put things up, you know, and a couple of chairs. I just put a couple of chairs up and see how I could train my eyes. How wide could my eyes get? And so the more I put the chairs out, the bigger my eyes got. And that was the only thing I was doing. And
Who told you to do that?
I thought it made sense. Just did it.
We have this quote on the wall, "Nobody intimidates me." Tell us about this quote.
My game was all about execution and being able to make sure that I am prepared for the opponent. I had the utmost respect for every opponent that I ever played against because they deserved that.
Did you have fun when you played? I mean, I sense with you, and I could be dead wrong, it was a tape studying business.
I wish I could have figured out a way to have fun, but somebody's got to watch to make sure that nothing happens that's not supposed to happen. And I was more than willing to be that person that if something wasn't right, I'm talking to Buddy, I'm talking to Walter, I'm talking to McMahon, I'm talking to somebody, let's get it right. And so I'm constantly looking at what needs to happen in order for us to stay on track. But I wish that I knew how to do that. I certainly have learned since then, but at the time did not, yes.
Talking about how to turn off that intense worker.
Yes.
Not to take anything away from Coach Armstrong, but you guys are cooking on defense now and it's coming, but that team needed a point man to send the group in the right direction. He seemed like the right guy. I
was thinking to myself, I don't know much about Coach Dicker, but he sounds like the right guy because we needed someone that was really going to take hold of the situation at hand, make sure that guys understood that this is the direction that we're going to go, this is how we're going to get there, and this is the way we're going to do things. And it was going to work for us.
84, you lose the champ game.
The fans are saying, you guys stink, you know, you don't have an offense, boo. And I look at the people, the fans in San Francisco, and I say, you guys did great. Next year is our year. And they were like, this guy is crazy. But I said, next year is our year. When we got on the plane, I started talking to the guys, and I said, guys, next year is our year, starting today. And we started talking on the plane about next year being our year. 85 is our year. We set it in motion then, and everything that we did went towards being in the Super Bowl that next year.
I mean, that 85 Bears team, for somebody my age, you know, we've got a lot of high school students in the crowd. You know, that was a team filled with, let's say, unique personalities.
Unique, yes. On the offensive side of the ball, you had some great players, starting with Walter Payton and of course, McMahon and Gauld and Covert. And then on the defensive side, you know, starting with Hampton and McMichael. So when you have that kind of commitment, then there has to be some outlet. And I think for us, it was just that the fun that we had. You just didn't know what you were going to hear. You just didn't know what was going to happen.
I'm sure nothing was off limits either. No person, no coach.
There have been, since that time, more talented teams than ours. But the biggest difference is if you were to go up and down that line and talk to each one of those guys, you would find that they were competitors. They hated to lose. They were men of even though they were crazy, they were guys that, you know, no telling what they might say, what they might do, but at the end of the day, you wanted them with you in that foxhole because you know they would not give it away.
And I don't know if people realize, I mean, it was a 15-1 season. You barely lost the one game, ironically enough, to Miami, the team that still hangs its hat on having the only undefeated season. You pitched shutouts in the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl. What was it like for you in that locker room before you went out on that field? Or what was your mindset going into that Super Bowl?
Really, it was the night before that's more telling. When Buddy comes in the room and says, you guys are always be my heroes, and starts to tear up and walks out of the room, it was that night that we walked out of that room that basically the game was it was won then. The game was over then. The next morning was just a formality. It was just the beginning of the execution that we had already envisioned in our minds.
Champions on this January day in New Orleans.
You know, as an athlete, you hear all the time the great players that say, you know, I wish I would have had a chance just one time to be a champion in the Super Bowl. And I knew that was, when it happened, it was a very special thing that I had heard from many guys that were great players but never had a chance to be in a championship.
The rumors of Buddy leaving were true. After that year, he's gone, and he gets his chance to be the head man in Philadelphia.
I was too immature emotionally to understand it. How could you leave? You know, where are you going to go? You never told me you were going to leave. You know, forget about his family, forget about his wife, forget about his goals. I was only thinking about me. And I'm thinking, how could you do this to me? I mean, here we are. We are just at the place where we need to be. We have some great things that we can do. And yet, he knew that he couldn't tell me because I was not aware of any of those things. I was so focused on what we were doing and winning. The thought of him leaving was just a bizarre thought. He called me many times afterwards, and I wouldn't answer the phone. I wouldn't talk to him. Many times I was so angry at him. Showed you how immature I was and selfish. But I wouldn't talk to him. I didn't call him. I didn't want to hear it because he didn't tell me. And he knew that if he told me, I wouldn't have handled it well anyway, so he couldn't win. Finally, I called him, and when he picked up the phone, he just said, Samurai, I just want you to listen. You know I love you more than anything. This was something that I needed to do for me and my family. I'm sorry, but I had to go. Can you understand that? Yes, I understand. Yeah. So it was tough.
Your own father, your real father, Rev. Was there a point in time where you had to let whatever anger or bitterness or regret go in order to grow as a man yourself?
One of the greatest things that I've had the privilege of doing is forgiving my dad. It's one of the greatest privileges in my life. And I thought at the time, it happened right after the Super Bowl. Right after the Super Bowl, I'm thinking, why don't I feel great? Something is missing. And I'm wondering, what is this? And it finally dawned on me, I needed to go talk to my dad. I needed to forgive my dad because I was about to have a child. And if I don't forgive my dad, then I'm going to repeat the same thing that he did. That same stuff is going to be with me, and I'm going to take it into this marriage. And as a father, I can't do that. And I thought he was going to say, oh, son, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I'm unworthy. What does he say? Forgive me for what? What are you talking about? Forgive you. So I put clothes on your back. I put shoes on your feet. I put food in your stomach. Forgive you for what? You had a roof over your head. What are you talking about? And I want to tell you, it was a long conversation. We cried, we yelled, we screamed. But when that conversation was over, I knew that something had changed. You know, I asked him, why did you leave? You know, Mom loved you. Why did you do her like that? Why'd you do that? Why did you hit her? Why did you do that? And as I talked to him, I began to understand that his dad did the same thing. And his dad did the same thing.
Did he ever say, I'm proud of you?
One day he said, I'm just so proud of the man that you have become. I'm so proud of the father that you strive to be, you work at it. And the husband, how you treat your wife, how you respect her, how you love her. Son, you're teaching me.
This all took place after you win it all. And as so often happens, you get there and you try to maintain, you try to do it again. You got to the playoffs, you had some good years, but you never did it again. Why?
It was just greed and ignorance and selfishness, myself included. You know, I wish that I could have, you know, done something. There was something I could have done different. But just didn't happen.
You called it quits. You were finished. The 5-year waiting period happens. You go into the Hall of Fame. And who presents you in Canton, Ohio as a Hall of Famer?
My wife.
It had never been done before in the history of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You asked your wife to present you on that day. Why'd you pick her?
Well, actually, I picked my mom and my wife, the two greatest women I know. My mom said, son, there's no way I'm doing this. So I went to my wife and I said, you're not getting out of it. And she said, well, Mike, you know, you got Coach Dicker, you got Buddy, you got Coach Brown. I said, yeah, I know that. Those men are like my dad. But they are not you. And I said, when, you know, we have 7 kids. You have been with me through thick and thin, through my proud moments, through my dumb moments, through my ego moments. All these things, you have loved me through this. So how in the world could anybody else stand up there and represent me other than you? That was an easy choice.
Today, I think it's only fitting that we honor the character of this football player, for that truly belongs in a Hall of Fame.
So when you sat up there, you heard whatever she had to say
Yes.
for the first time.
Did I never heard it before? Yeah.
But you're out of the game. Now you're taking all of this intensity and these skills and everything you've learned and applying it to family. This great father, this great husband. But at some point she says to you, you need to go. You need to get back into the game. Did you miss football?
Being very honest with you, there were parts of the game that I missed. But being at home with my kids, those were the greatest moments for me.
So you go back into coaching, assistant coach, Ravens, you're coaching the great Ray Lewis, who I would imagine was a sponge for a guy like you, imparting all your wisdom. You go to the 49ers, you become head coach. You're the head man now of an NFL franchise, the great proud tradition of the 49ers. I know you're working hard to get back in the game. What are your goals as a coach?
The greatest thing about the coaches that I've been able to be under, every one of those coaches, the reason I call them dad is because when they taught you football, they taught you life. Everything that I have, I got from somebody else. At least I can give back by showing some appreciation for that.
We like to wind down the show by saying, what's next?
The next thing for me is my destiny. If I'm going to coach, the next team that I coach, there will be something great happening. I'm at a fork in the road. I'm interested to see what God does, what he says, what I'm going to do. But whatever it is, you can rest assured you will hear about it.
We like to end this with a little fun, ask you a few questions that are dreamed up by people that might have fit in with that team back in the mid-'80s of the Chicago Bears. Some of them, I don't even know what's in here. I'm going to ask you, would you rather only be able to whisper or only able to shout?
Whisper. That came too quick, didn't it?
It did.
So what am I going to do, have headaches all the time?
Yeah.
Get it!
Yeah, well, there's no whispering in the middle of that defense. All right. If you had to listen to one song 1,000 times in a row, what song would that be?
One song?
One song 1,000 times in a row. Should I go to your daughter for this?
Anything by Luther Vandross 1,000 times, or the song September. That's my mom and dad's song.
You want to make Kim happy? Say September.
September. That's a good
September. What keeps you up at night? What worries you?
I guess the thing that keeps me up at night in a good way, what does God have for me next? Whatever it is, my heart, my mind, my soul is going to be in it. All in. And if it's football, watch out. If it's football, watch out now. If it's something else, we'll see. But that keeps me up at night.
This is a young boy who at one point, with everything going on in his world, decided he was going to be mediocre until his mom told him that wasn't going to be acceptable. And you have been great ever since. And it's been an honor to have you sit in that chair on this stage. Thank you for sharing your story. You are an inspiration to a lot of people, including the guy who's about to say, how about a round of applause for the great Mike Singletary. Thank you, my friend. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys.